Be careful, sir. The voice came from somewhere low and to his left, urgent enough that Harlan Whitlock stopped mid-step on the corner of Bramwell and Fifth. His cane, white with the red tip he had long stopped caring about, hovered an inch above the curb. The traffic on Fifth Avenue rumbled along in its usual late-morning rhythm. A bus exhaled as it pulled away from the intersection. Somewhere nearby, a vendor called out about pretzels in that patient, weary tone of someone who had been repeating the same phrase for years. Harlan heard none of it once the child spoke. He turned his head slightly toward the voice. The way a man does when his ears have become his most vital sense, son, he said, keeping his cane suspended. Say that again. There's a man, sir, by the lamppost. He's been watching you. He's holding something. The voice was small, perhaps 6 or 7. There was a slight rasp to it, the kind that comes from sleeping in cold places and breathing through the mouth. The child was close enough that Harlan could smell the wool of an unwashed coat, the faint sour note of a body that lived outside, and beneath it all something cleaner, the scent of a child's skin, a child's breath, and the lingering sweetness of an orange recently eaten. How close is he? Harlan asked. His voice did not rise. He had spent years training it not to, about a dozen steps. He's pretending to look at his phone, but the screen is black. A black phone in a man's hand on a busy corner in the middle of the day. Harlan filed the detail away. He did not yet know what to do with it. What does he look like? White, tall, wearing a long grey coat, the colour of wet sidewalk. He's got gloves on, even though it's not cold. Harlan felt a small, cold sensation slide down between his shoulder blades, the kind of warning he had learned over the years to take seriously. Gloves on a warm morning. He had been blind for a long time. In the early years of his blindness, he had discovered that the world was full of small details others noticed and dismissed, details he could no longer afford to ignore. Where is your hand right now? He asked the child. By yours, sir. By the cane. Take hold of my cuff. Not my hand. Right here. Yes, like that. Now, I want you to walk me slowly across the street in the other direction, away from the lamppost. We are not going to run. We are going to walk like two people who have simply grown tired of waiting for the light. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Harlan felt the small fingers close carefully around the cuff of his charcoal overcoat. The grip was tentative but attentive. The child had clearly never guided a blind man across a street before and was trying hard to do it right. They stepped off the curb together. The cane swept once, then twice. Harlan listened to the traffic. The bus had pulled away. A taxi waited at the light. They crossed. On the far side, Harlan stopped under the green awning of what he knew from the smell of fresh bread and something faintly burnt was the bakery on the southeast corner. He turned his back to the wall and lowered his face slightly toward the child. What is your name? Jesse. Jesse, how old are you? 6.5. Jesse, I need you to do one more thing for me. Tell me without turning your head or pointing, is the man in the grey coat still where he was? There was a pause. Harlan understood the child was sliding only his eyes, the way children do when they are trying not to be caught looking. He moved, sir. He's walking now, going the way we were going to go. He's still holding the phone, but he put his other hand in his pocket. He keeps it there. Is anyone with him? No, sir. But there's a black car parked at the corner. The driver is sitting in it with the window down. I think they know each other, because when you stopped, the driver looked up. Harlan reached into the inside pocket of his coat and removed his phone. His thumb found a small raised dot on the side button he had requested. He pressed it twice. A calm, synthesized voice asked who he wished to call. Call Clara, he said. The line rang once. Clara Vance answered on the second ring. She always answered on the second ring. Harlan had once asked her why, and she had replied in her dry way that answering on the first ring made people feel they were being humoured. Harlan, Clara, I'm on the corner of Bramwell and Fifth, under the bakery awning. There's a man in a grey coat with gloves on a warm day who has been following me. A child noticed him. There's a car at the corner with a driver who seems to be working with him. I haven't seen any of this myself. I'm telling you what the child told me. There was a half second of silence on the other end. Clara was a woman who used silences the way others used words. Stay where you are. Do not move from that awning. I'm sending a car. It won't be one of the company cars. It will be a black SUV. Plate beginning with our K9. The driver's name is Amir. He will come to the awning on foot first and identify himself. Do not get into any vehicle until you have heard the name Amir spoken aloud in person. Are we clear? We are clear. How old is the child? 6.5. Keep him with you. Do not let him walk away. Whatever this is, he is now part of it, whether either of you wanted him to be. I will have someone from the firm there soon. Harlan thought for a moment about the gloves. The black phone, the driver who had looked up when he stopped. Yes, he said. Call the police, but have them come quietly. No sirens on this block. If the man in the coat hears a siren, he will walk away, and we will never know what he meant to do. Understood. The line went dead. Clara did not believe in goodbyes during emergencies. She had once told him that a goodbye was permission to relax, and no one in an emergency had earned it yet. Harlan lowered the phone and turned his face slightly down toward the small presence at his side. Jesse, are you still with me? Yes, sir. I didn't move. Good. We are going to stand here for a little while. Some people are coming to help us. While we wait, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you are going to answer them honestly, even if the answers are things you think a grown-up does not want to hear. Is that a deal? Yes, sir. Where do you live? A pause the kind Harlan had heard before from people deciding which version of the truth was safest. I don't really. There's a place behind the church on Holly Street. The basement door doesn't close all the way. Sometimes I sleep there. Sometimes by the loading dock at the grocery on Marston. It depends on who else is in those places. Where are your parents? My mom is in a place she can't leave. She's been there since I was 4. I don't really remember her face anymore. I remember her voice a little. She used to sing a song about a sparrow. And your father? I never met him. Who feeds you, Jesse? There's a lady at the diner on Marston, Mrs. O'Loughlin. She gives me toast in the morning if I sweep the back step. And there's a man who runs the newsstand by the park. He gives me a banana on Wednesdays. He says Wednesdays are the days he can spare one. I don't know why. Harlan stood very still. He could feel his own pulse against the soft inside of his collar. How did you know to look for that man today, Jesse? I didn't look for him. I look at everyone, sir. That's how I find the people who give things and the people who take them. I have to be able to tell which is which. The man in the coat, I saw him yesterday on a different corner. He was watching a man with a white cane like yours, but it wasn't you. The other man was younger. The man in the coat watched him for a long time, then he left. Did he do anything to that other man? Not yesterday. But today, I saw him on this corner before you came. And then you came, and he started walking the same way you were walking. And he had the gloves on. And I remembered. A car passed slowly on 5th. Harlan listened. It did not stop. He let out the breath he had been holding without realizing it. Jesse, he said, you have a very good eye. I have to, sir, the child said simply. It's the only thing I really have. The silence that followed was not awkward. It was the silence of two people who had nothing to add to a truth that had been spoken. Harlan reached down and found the child's shoulder by feel. It was thin under the wool of the coat, which was itself thin and not the right size. He could feel the small ridge of bone beneath his palm. He left his hand there for a moment, then took it away. He had learned over the years that children who lived in the kinds of places Jesse had described were sometimes touched too much in the wrong ways and not enough in the right ones. He did not want to misjudge. What is the man in the coat doing now? He asked. He's standing at the next corner. He's looking at the bakery. I think he's trying to see if you're still under the awning. The car moved. It's at the same corner he is at now. It pulled up next to him. Are there other people on the sidewalk? A lady with a stroller just walked past him. Some men in suits crossed the street to get coffee. There are people, sir. He won't do anything with people there. He wants you alone. Harlan noted the phrasing. He wants you alone. It was the kind of thing a child said when he had spent enough time watching adults to understand what they did when they thought no one was watching. It was not a phrase a 6-year-old should have had to learn. A long black vehicle eased to the curb a few yards away. Harlan heard the door open and the soft scuff of a man stepping down onto pavement. The footsteps came toward the awning at a pace that was unhurried and not quite casual. Mr. Whitlock. My name is Amir. Miss Van sent me. The voice was deep, calm, accented faintly in a way Harlan could not quite place, somewhere between distant lands. Amir, thank you. There is a child with me. He is the reason I am still standing under this awning. He comes with us, of course, sir. There is room. Miss Vance has already arranged a seat. Harlan turned his head down again. Jesse. The man whose voice you just heard is named Amir. He works for Clara. Clara is the woman I called. She is a friend. We are going to get into the car with Amir. The car will take us somewhere safe. I would like you to come with us. You are not in any trouble. You will not be in any trouble for any reason. If at any point you want to leave, you tell me, and we will stop the car and let you out wherever you ask. Do you understand? The boy was quiet for a moment. I have to go back to the church, he said finally. I left my bag there. Everything I have is in the bag. Then we will go to the church first and pick up your bag. Then we will go somewhere safe. Is that all right? A pause. Then the small, careful nod that Harlan could not see, but could feel through the cuff of his coat, where the boy's hand still rested. Yes, sir. Two unmarked cars had drifted up Fifth Avenue from the south end of the block while they spoke. Harlan could not see them, but he could hear them in the way the traffic pattern changed, the slight hesitation of other drivers when an unmarked sedan moves with purpose. He heard car doors open at the far corner. He heard the polite, low voice of a man saying, Sir, would you mind keeping your hands where I can see them? He heard faintly the gloved man begin to say something, then stop. Jesse's small body went very still against Harlan's side. They got him, sir, he whispered. Two of them. They got the driver too. The driver didn't even try to drive away. He just put his hands up like he was waiting. Like he was waiting? Harlan repeated. Yes, sir. Like he wasn't surprised. Harlan considered that. A man being arrested who is not surprised is a man who has been told somewhere along the line that the worst-case version of the day might include this. Which meant he had not been working alone. Which meant the person who hired him had warned him. Which meant the person who hired him was the kind who thought through worst cases. Amir cleared his throat softly. Mr. Whitlock, the car, whenever you are ready. We are ready, Harlan said. Jesse, walk with me. The child walked with him. The interior of the SUV smelled of clean leather and faintly of mint. Harlan felt the seat give under him in the deliberate, expensive way that good upholstery does. He heard Jesse climb up beside him with the small, careful sounds of a child who had never been in a vehicle this nice and was trying very hard not to leave any mark on it. You can sit back. Jesse, the seat is meant to be sat on. My pants are dirty. Sir, the seat does not care about your pants. Sit back. There was a hesitation, then the soft sound of a small body settling into leather. Amir, Harlan said, the church on Holly Street. Jesse needs to retrieve his belongings. After that, we will go wherever Clara has arranged. Yes, sir. Miss Vance suggested the house on Reston. She said you would know which. I know which. The car eased away from the curb. Harlan felt the smooth turn onto Fifth. The small jolt as they crossed the seam between slabs of pavement. The long, even acceleration of a vehicle whose driver knew the city's rhythms. Beside him, Jesse was silent. Harlan could feel the boy's small movements through the seat, the slight tilt of his head when something passed outside the window. The way his foot tapped once, twice, then went still as though he had remembered he was not supposed to be making noise. Jesse, yes. Sir, have you ever ridden in a car before? Twice. Once when I was little in a police car after my MOM went to her place, and once in an ambulance when I broke my arm. Mrs. O'Loughlin called for the ambulance. I told her not to because of the bill, but she called anyway. She said some bills are not yours to worry about. Mrs. O'Loughlin sounds like a good woman. She is. Sir, Harlan turned his face toward the window, even though the window was for him only a faintly cool surface where light pressed against glass. He had developed the habit of facing windows during conversations. It gave the other person the comfortable illusion of being looked at without being stared at. He had learned that sighted people were sometimes unsettled by a blind man's face turned directly toward them for too long. "How did you break your arm?" "I fell off a wall. I was trying to see if I could see into the back of the bakery from the wall. I wanted to know if they threw bread away at night." "They do, but you have to be there at exactly the right minute, or the rats get it first. And do you get there at exactly the right minute?" Sometimes the car turned. Harlan felt the gentle pull, then the slow brake, then the soft idle of a vehicle waiting for a light. "Mr. Whitlock," Amir said quietly from the front. "Miss Vance is on the line. She would like to speak with you." A small click. Clara's voice arrived in the cabin, dry and unhurried. "Harlan, the man in the grey coat, is named Anton Bregman. He has done this sort of work for many years. He is currently in custody and is, by all accounts, the type who talks. The driver is talking already. He gave us a name within minutes of being placed in the back of the car. I am going to tell you the name now, and I am going to ask you not to react until you have had a moment to sit with it. Are you ready?" "Yes." Victor. Harlan did not move. He did not change his expression. He had, by long practice, the kind of face that did not change when a thing landed inside him that needed time to be understood. Victor Whitlock, his nephew, his brother Howard's only son, the boy he had paid to send to law school, the young man he had brought into the company against the quiet objections of board members who had felt the hire was sentimental, the man who had, not long ago, been moved into the position of overseeing the trust that would, upon Harlan's death, become his. "Clara, I know. How sure are you?" The driver named him by full name and by relationship. He said the old man's nephew. He gave a meeting location and a date. "We have already pulled the security footage from that location for that date. Victor is on it. He is on it for a long while. The audio is not good, but it does not need to be." Harlan was quiet for a long moment. The car began to move again. Beside him, very softly, Jesse said, "Sir, are you all right?" "I am, Jesse." "Thank you for asking." He was not, in fact, all right. But he had years of practice at sounding like he was, and the practice was, at this moment, the only thing holding the inside of his chest together. The church on Holly Street was the kind of small stone building that had been built long ago for a congregation that had since dwindled. Harlan did not know any of this directly. He learned it later. What he knew, sitting in the car at the curb, was the smell of the place, which came through Amir's lowered window, old stone, damp wood, the faint sweetness of votive candles, and underneath those things the particular cold mineral smell of a basement that did not get enough sun. "This is it, sir," Jesse said. "The basement door is around the side. You don't have to come." "I'll be fast. I would prefer to come, if you do not mind." "Amir will stay with the car. I would like to see, to know where you have been sleeping." A pause. "It's not nice, sir. I have been in many places that are not nice." "It will not shock me." "Okay." They got out. Harlan unfolded his cane. Jesse took hold of his cuff again in the same careful way as before, and led him around the side of the building along a strip of cracked pavement crowded by weeds. Harlan counted his steps, as he always did in a new place. 11 steps to the corner, 8 more along the side, then a slight downward slope, and the cane found a step, then another. "Watch your head, sir. The door is short." He ducked. The air changed. It was colder by several degrees, and the sound of his own breathing came back to him at a slightly different speed, the way breath does when a person enters a small enclosed space. "My bag is over here," Jesse said. Small footsteps, the sound of fabric being lifted, then the sound of small footsteps returning. "Got it, sir? What's in it, Jesse?" A long silence. "A blanket. A book Mrs. O'Loran gave me. But I can only read some of the words. A picture of my MOM from when she still came to see me at the place I was at before with the foster lady. A spoon, a toothbrush, some socks, and a rock. A rock. My MOM gave it to me. The last time she came, she said it was from a place she went to once when she was happy. It's smooth on one side and rough on the other. She said the smooth side is for when I'm scared and the rough side is for when I'm angry, and that I should rub the side I need. Harlan stood very still in the cold basement. He had spent a lifetime learning not to weep at things. He continued in this moment not to weep, but he understood with great clarity that he was making a choice and that the choice was costing him something. That is a very wise mother, he said. She was, sir, before. She still is, Jessie. People do not stop being who they were because they are in places they cannot leave. The boy did not answer. Harlan heard the soft, careful sound of a small backpack being settled onto small shoulders. We can go now, sir. They went. Up the steps, around the corner, along the strip of weeds, back to the SUV. Amir was standing beside the open rear door, his hands folded in front of him in a way that suggested he had been watching the street the entire time without appearing to dot in the car. Harlan turned slightly toward Jessie. Jessie, I want to ask you something and you can say no. You can say no without any consequence at all, and we will simply take you wherever in the city you would like to go, and you will never see me again unless you wish to. Do you understand that part first? Yes, sir. There is a house Clara is taking us to. It is small. It is quiet. It has a garden in the back and a kitchen with a window. I'm going to stay there for a little while some things are sorted out, because the people who try to harm me today may still be looking for me. I would be honored if you would stay there as well. There is a room with a bed and a desk and a lamp. There is food. There is a woman named Mrs. O'Loran who looks after the house, and she is kind, and she will not make you do anything you do not want to do. You may stay one night and decide it is not for you and leave in the morning, or you may stay longer. The choice is yours every day. Will you come? A very small voice. Yes, sir. Good. The car moved. The house on Reston Lane was a narrow brick row house set back from the street behind a low wrought iron gate. Harlan had bought it many years earlier and had never lived in it. He had bought it because the woman who had been selling it was a widow whose lawyer had been cheating her, and Harlan had paid her what the house was actually worth instead of what the lawyer had told her it was worth. The woman had asked him afterward what he intended to do with the place, and he had told her honestly that he did not know. He had told Clara to find someone to look after it. Clara had found Mrs. O'Loran. Mrs. O'Loran had been looking after it ever since. The gate opened. The car eased into the small drive. Harlan heard the front door of the house open before Amir had even come around to his side. Mr. Whitlock? A woman's voice, warm, mid-60s, with a slight upward lift at the end of a sentence that Harlan had long associated with the western counties of Ireland. Mrs. O'Loran, this is Jessie. Jessie is my guest. He will be staying with us for a while. He is a fine young man, and he is to be treated as such. Of course he is. Hello, Jessie. I am Mrs. O'Loran. Are you hungry, love? A pause, then very quietly. Yes, ma'am. A little. Well, a little is a place to start. Come in, the both of you. Mr. Whitlock, Miss Vance is in the front room. Clara was in fact in the front room. Harlan knew this before he reached the room because Clara had a particular way of being in a space. She occupied it without rearranging it, the way certain old cats occupy a chair. He could hear the small sound of her folio being set down on a side table. He could hear her stand. Harlan, Clara, she crossed the room. She did not embrace him. Clara had not embraced him in all their years of working together, and he had not asked her to. She did, however, briefly lay her hand on his forearm, a thing she had done only a handful of times in the entire course of their acquaintance, and only on days when something had gone very wrong. This is Jessie, Harlan said. Hello. Jessie. Hello. Now Mrs. O'Loran is going to take you to the kitchen and see about feeding you. After that, if you would like, there is a bathroom upstairs with hot water and as many towels as you would like to use. And after that, there is a room with a bed and a window that looks at a small magnolia tree, which is not at the moment flowering, but which is alive, which is, in my opinion, the more important point. Does any of that sound all right? Yes, ma'am. Off you go then. Mr. Whitlock and I have some boring grown-up things to discuss. We will join you when we are finished being boring, Mrs. O'Loughlin led Jessie away. Harlan heard the boy's small footsteps follow her down the hallway, then a door, then the soft, warm sounds of a kitchen, a kettle, a chair pulled out, the careful clink of a plate being set down. Clara waited until the kitchen door had closed behind them. Then she sat. Harlan heard her sit. He found his own chair by the small sound of its arm against his outstretched cane, and he sat as well. Tell me, he said. Victor has not been arrested yet. We have enough to arrest him, but the moment we do, anyone he has been working with will know within the hour, and we will lose them. The federal team would like to wait a couple of days. They would like to use that window to identify the rest of the network. There is almost certainly a rest of the network. A nephew with a law degree and a grudge is not capable of arranging what was arranged today on his own. What grudge? That is the question I was going to ask you. Harlan was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his nephew. He thought about the boy at 14 who had spent a summer at Harlan's house in Vermont because Howard and his wife were divorcing and the boy had needed somewhere quiet. He thought about Victor at 22, graduating from college, accepting Harlan's hand at the ceremony with a smile that had been, even then, a little too prepared. He thought about Victor not long ago at Christmas dinner, sitting across from him, and saying in a voice Harlan had heard but had not at the time listened to, "Uncle, do you ever think about what happens to all of this after?" "He has been waiting," Harlan said, "for me to die, and I have been taking too long." Clara did not contradict him. "He has come twice in recent months to my office without an appointment to ask very specific questions about the structure of the trust. I answered the first set of questions because they were not unreasonable for a man in his position to ask. I declined to answer the second set. I told him the second set was for you to discuss with him, not me." He left without arguing. I made a note of the visit. I made a note of the questions. I have those notes in front of me right now. You did not tell me. No, I did not. I made a judgment that it was better to watch than to alarm you. And I made that judgment without consulting you, which I will apologize for once, and then we will not revisit it. I am sorry, Harlan. Accept it. There is more. Go on. Recently, Victor met with a man named Carrick Voss at a hotel bar in the financial district. Mr. Voss is a name I have known about for some years. He arranges things. He does not do them. He arranges them. The federal team has been watching Mr. Voss for some time. They have watched him meet with several other men, two of whom subsequently lost relatives in what were ruled accidents. They have not been able to bring a case because Mr. Voss does not write things down, and the men he meets with do not generally survive long afterward. Victor met with him. They drank coffee. They did not eat. They paid in cash. The federal team was photographing the meeting because they were watching Voss. They did not know who the young man was. They have known since they ran the photograph against company filings. Why was he not stopped then? Because meeting with a man at a hotel bar is not a crime. The crime had to happen first. The crime, as of this morning, did happen. The crime is now a matter of record. The driver of the black car has given us in writing the chain. Voss to Brakeman, Brakeman to the driver, and in conversation Voss to Victor. We will have the rest of the chain by tomorrow morning. We will have Victor by tomorrow evening. Harlan sat with this. The clock on the mantel, an old brass thing Mrs. O'Loughlin kept wound, though Harlan had never asked her to, ticked through the silence at the slow, dignified pace of a thing that had been ticking longer than anyone in the room had been alive. Clara, yes. He will go to prison. He will go to prison for a very long time. His mother, Helen, she is still alive. She lives in Connecticut. She has no one else. I know. I do not want her to learn this from a reporter. She will not. I will go to her myself tomorrow morning. I have already arranged a car. I will tell her in the proper way, in her own home, with a cup of tea in her hand and a person beside her who can stay the night if she wishes one to. Thank you. You are welcome. A small sound at the doorway. Harlan turned his face toward it. Mr. Whitlock, sir. Mrs. O'Loughlin. The young man has eaten 3 pieces of toast with butter and a bowl of tomato soup and a glass of milk. He asked very politely if there was any chance of an apple. I gave him 2. He is now in the bath. He asked me to tell you he would like to come and say good night before he goes to bed, if that is all right with you. That is very much all right. Thank you, Mrs. O'Loran. She withdrew. Clara was quiet for a moment. Harlan could hear faintly from upstairs the small splash of water, and a child's voice humming something tuneless in content. Harlan. Yes. What do you intend to do about him? About Victor? About the boy. Harlan turned the question over. He had been turning it over since the SUV had pulled away from the bakery. He had been turning it over in some sense since the small voice had said, "Be careful." Sir, on the corner of Bramwell and Fifth, I am going to ask him, he said slowly, if he would like to stay, not as a guest, as something more permanent. I do not know yet what shape it will take. I am an older man. I have no children. I have no wife. I have a nephew who by tomorrow evening will be in federal custody. I have a great deal of money, and almost no one to leave it to who would do anything useful with it. And there is a 6-year-old boy upstairs in my bathtub who saw a man in gloves on a warm day and understood what it meant. Clara did not answer right away. When she did, her voice was, by Clara's standards, almost gentle. Then ask him, Harlan. But ask him slowly. Jessie came downstairs in pajamas Mrs. O'Loran had produced from somewhere in the linen closet. Harlan could not see them, but he heard Mrs. O'Loran say, "Now, don't you look like a proper gentleman?" And he heard the small embarrassed scoff of a boy who was not used to being told. He looked like anything at all. Clara excused herself to the front hall to make a call. Harlan heard her go. He turned his face toward the doorway. "Jessie?" "Yes, sir. Come and sit if you would like." The boy crossed the room. The pajamas, Harlan guessed by the soft swish of the fabric, were a little too long. He heard the boy stop at the edge of the rug, then walk on the rug with extra care, the way a child walks when he is not sure if rugs are for stepping on or stepping around. "You can sit on the sofa." "Jessie, anywhere you like." The boy chose the sofa. Harlan heard the cushion give. "How was your bath?" "It was very hot, sir." "I have never had a bath that hot. Mrs. O'Loran told me to say when it was too hot. But it was not too hot. It was just more hot than I have ever had." "Was it good?" "Yes, sir, and the soup, it was the best soup I have ever had." She put a piece of cheese on top that melted. "I did not know you were allowed to put cheese on soup." "You are allowed to put cheese on almost anything, Jessie." "It is one of the small mercies of the world." The boy made a small sound that was almost a laugh. They sat for a moment in the quiet. "Sir." "Yes, can I ask you something?" "Always." "How did you become blind?" Harlan took a slow breath. Most people, when they asked the question, asked it sideways. They said, "Have you always been like this?" Or, if you don't mind my asking, children asked it directly, the way Jessie had asked it. Because children had not yet been taught that the question was supposed to be uncomfortable. "I was a young man," he said. "I was riding a motorcycle on a road in the country at night, and a deer came out of the trees, and I swerved to miss the deer, and the motorcycle did not stay on the road. I struck a fence post with the side of my head. When I woke up 3 days later in a hospital, my eyes worked, but my brain had stopped speaking with them. The doctors told me there was a small chance the connection would come back over time. It did not come back. After some time, I stopped waiting for it. Did the deer get hurt?" Harlan smiled. It was a real smile. "I asked the policeman who found me the same question, Jessie. He told me the deer was fine." I have always chosen to believe him. The boy thought about that. My mom is in a hospital too, but a different kind. She is in the kind where her brain doesn't think right anymore. She's not going to come out of it. They told me when I was 4. I didn't understand then. I understand now. That is a very hard thing to understand at 6. I had to. Nobody was going to understand it for me. Harlan did not answer right away. He was not sure his voice would arrive intact. After a moment, he said, "Jessie, would it be all right with you if tomorrow I asked Clara to find out where your mother is and how she is, and whether there is a way for you to visit her sometimes?" "I do not know what we will find. It may be that nothing has changed about what is possible, but I would like to know on your behalf if you would let me. A silence, sir." Yes, nobody has asked me about her in a long time. The foster lady didn't like when I asked. The shelter people said it was complicated. I stopped saying her name out loud because I didn't want to forget the sound of it by hearing other people say it wrong. What is her name, Jessie? Lena. Lena Walsh. Lena Walsh. That is a beautiful name. I will say it correctly, and Clara will say it correctly. And we will find her, and we will see what is possible. The boy's small hand moved across the cushion and rested very tentatively on the back of Harlan's wrist. Harlan did not move. He let the small hand stay there. After a moment, he turned his wrist over so that his palm was facing up, and the small hand settled into the larger one, and they sat that way for a while without speaking. Harlan woke at dawn the next morning. He had slept against expectation well. He lay for a moment in the unfamiliar bed and listened to the house. Somewhere below, Mrs. O'Loughlin was moving in the kitchen. The smell of coffee was already rising. Outside, a single bird was making the kind of small repetitive complaint that one bird makes when it has decided the morning has begun, and the other birds are taking too long to agree. There was, he realized, a second sound much closer. Breathing. Small, even steady. He turned his face slightly. Jessie was in the room. The boy was asleep on the floor at the foot of the bed, curled into the small space between the bed frame and the wall, wrapped in a blanket. He had clearly dragged with him from his own room down the hall. His backpack was beside him. One small hand rested on the strap. Harlan did not move for a long time. He understood, with the same clear, painful understanding he had felt about many things in the last day, that the boy had not been able to sleep alone in a room with a door that closed. He understood that this was not something the boy would have asked for. He understood that the boy had crept down the hall in the dark and chosen the floor of a stranger's room because the floor of a stranger's room was, by the math of his life so far, safer than a bed in a quiet room by himself. When Mrs. O'Loughlin came up the stairs a little later with a tray, Harlan was sitting up against the headboard, very still, listening to the boy breathe. He raised one finger to his lips, though Mrs. O'Loughlin did not need the signal. She set the tray down on the small table by the window without a sound, looked at the boy on the floor for one long moment, dabbed at the corner of her eye with the side of her thumb, and withdrew. Jessie woke a little later. Harlan heard the small sound of a body remembering where it was, then a sharp intake of breath, then the very quiet, very ashamed sound of a child realizing he had been found somewhere he was not supposed to be. Jessie, I'm sorry, sir. I'll go right now. I was just Jessie. There is breakfast on the table by the window. There is enough for two. Come and have some with me, please. The boy was quiet, then very small. You are not mad. I am not mad. I am glad you found a place where you could sleep. You may sleep wherever in this house you can sleep best. We will work out the rest as we go. They ate breakfast at the small table. Mrs. O'Loughlin had brought eggs and toast and a small bowl of cut fruit. Jessie ate with the same slow, careful attention he had given the apple earlier. Harlan corrected himself. That had been a different child, a different story. He ate the way a child eats when he has not yet trusted that there will be more. Later that morning, Clara arrived. She came up the stairs and tapped on the door and entered without waiting for an answer because that was Clara. Harlan. Victor was arrested early this morning at his apartment. He did not resist. He asked for his attorney. His attorney is not me. Helen has been told. I was with her at first light. She took it in the way she takes most things, which is quietly and with both hands flat on the kitchen table. She asked me to tell you she does not blame you. She asked me to also tell you that she would like, when you are able, to speak with you yourself. There is no rush on that, she said in her own time. Harlan nodded slowly. Thank you, Clara. There is one more thing. Yes. Lena Walsh, Jessie, who had been finishing the last of his toast, went very still. She is in a long-term care facility in Westbrook. She has been there for several years. The facility is, by my assessment, a decent one. Underfunded, but decent. The staff know her. The notes in her file describe her as quiet, gentle, and largely nonverbal. There has been no improvement in her condition, and the doctors do not expect any. She has a son listed in her file. His name is Jesse Walsh. The file notes that the son was placed in foster care at age 4, and that contact was suspended due to placement instability. What does that mean? Jessie asked. Clara turned her face toward the boy. Her voice softened in the way it had softened the day before. It means, Jessie, that the people who were supposed to bring you to see her stopped bringing you. Not because she did not want you to come, but because they did not arrange it. That is the only reason. The boy was quiet for a long time. Can I see her? Yes. When? Today, if you would like. The car can be ready in a little while. Jessie looked at Harlan. Harlan could not see the look, but he could feel it. I would like to go with you, Harlan said, if that is all right. Yes, sir, the boy said. I would like that too. The drive to Westbrook took some time. Amir drove. Clara had stayed behind to handle the morning, which she described in her usual way as a number of unpleasant phone calls she was uniquely qualified to make. Jessie sat in the back beside Harlan. He held his backpack on his lap. Inside the backpack, Harlan knew, were the blanket, the book, the picture of his mother from before, the spoon, the toothbrush, the socks, and the rock with the smooth side and the rough side. The boy had not asked to leave any of it behind. They did not speak much during the drive. Harlan had learned a long time ago that there were silences which needed to be filled and silences which needed to be left alone, and that the hard part was knowing which was which. This was the kind to leave alone. The facility was a low brick building set among old trees. Mrs. O'Loran, who had packed them a small bag of sandwiches and a thermos of warm cocoa for the boy, had also pressed into Harlan's hand a small bouquet of white flowers from the back garden of the house on Reston. Harlan did not know what they were. Mrs. O'Loran had told him, but he had been thinking about other things, and he had let the name slip past him. He carried them now in the crook of his arm. A woman met them at the door. Her name was Carol. She had been told they were coming. She crouched in front of Jessie without making a thing of it. Hello, Jessie. Your mother has a window seat in a sunroom at the end of the hallway. She sits there most mornings. She likes the light. I'm going to walk you to her. She may not know who you are, sweetheart, not the way you would want her to, but she will feel you near her. People know more than their faces show. Is it all right if I take you to her now? The boy nodded once. They walked down the hallway together. Harlan followed with his cane, with Amir a respectful distance behind. The hallway smelled of the soft, impersonal cleanness of places where many people live who cannot care for themselves, and underneath it faintly of lilac, which someone had set in a vase on a side table. The sunroom was warm. Harlan felt the sun through the glass on the side of his face. He stopped at the doorway. He let Jessie go first. He heard the boy walk across the room. He heard him stop. He heard the small, indrawn breath of a child seeing his mother's face for the first time in a long time. Mama, Jessie said very quietly. It's me. It's Jessie. I came. There was a long silence. Then a sound Harlan had not expected and would carry with him for the rest of his life, the small, soft sound of a woman who had not spoken in months, making in her throat the shape of a hum without words. A hum that was, Harlan understood without being told, the beginning of the song about the sparrow. Jessie began to cry. He did not cry loudly. He cried the way a child cries when he has been holding the crying inside for years and has finally found the one person it is safe to spend it on. Harlan stayed in the doorway. He did not enter the room. The flowers in his arm were not for him to give. They stayed for a while. When they left, Carol promised that Jessie could come back regularly and that she would personally make sure of it. Harlan left a card with his number and Clara's number and a quiet brief instruction about funding for the facility that he asked Carol not to mention to the boy Dot in the car going back. Jessie fell asleep against Harlan's side. His small head rested against the sleeve of Harlan's coat. The backpack was on the floor at his feet. The rock, Harlan noticed by the small bulge against his ribs, had been moved from the backpack into the front pocket of Jessie's borrowed coat. The smooth side, Harlan guessed, today had been a smooth side day. In time, Victor pleaded guilty in exchange for testimony against Carrick Voss. He received a long sentence. Harlan visited him once during his imprisonment. They did not speak of what had happened. They spoke of Helen, who was well, and of a book Harlan had been reading. Victor cried at the end. Harlan did not. He left without saying he forgave him, because he did not yet, and he had decided a long time ago not to lie to people about the state of his own heart. Jesse grew up in the house on Reston. He went to a school nearby. He skinned his knees. He was late on his homework. He visited his mother every week for the rest of her life. He carried the rock in his pocket every day for years. And then he kept it in a small wooden box on the desk by his window, where it sits, as far as Harlan knows. Still, if this story moved you, please like the video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Subscribe for more stories about the small acts of attention that change everything, and the unlikely heroes who see what the rest of the world walks past.